Hey everybody, it's Nancy Panuccio from emergingwriters.us, and today we're going to talk about how to create your submissions log. We've been talking about how to research the prose market, how to select the best magazines for your stories. We talked about how to format your manuscript and how to write your cover letter. And in the last video, we talked about creating two submission lists, one for your preferred magazines, that would be your list A, and list B would be all the others. And we talked about staggering those submissions so that you give the first shot at getting your work published in one of your preferred magazines. So today we're going to talk about how to track all that, because especially as you start submitting to many magazines at once, or maybe you have multiple stories that you're sending out and they're all going out to many different magazines, you want to have a place that you can track them all and have one in one place that you can just refer to and have everything at a glance. So here is a submission log that I created a few years back, and you'll see that I have two stories on this particular log, and this log was for a series of writing contests that were held by magazines, and this is how I tracked all that information. And the period of time that I sent these out was over about a 6-month period. So what I have here are 7 columns, and how I'm tracking it is by the story title, the magazines that I sent them to, so that's this column here. Here are the submission dates for each magazine, the response time, which varies from magazine to magazine, and then we have the editor. Now, you're not always going to have that information. You're not always going to have the editor's name, but if you do have it, you want to put it there. In this column, we have the result and feedback, and/or feedback, and any rewrite ideas that you may get while you're waiting to hear back, or maybe you get some rewrite ideas when you're accepted. Okay, so before we delve into this a little more, let's just talk about how we set this up. So I did this in Word, and you can also do this in an Excel spreadsheet if you prefer, but I just like to do everything in Word. It's just easier for me. And so what you'll do is you'll go up to Table, and you'll go Insert Table, and then you'll get this little box that says the number of columns and the number of rows. Now, the number of columns is what we have. These are the elements that are going across. So we have the title, the magazine, submission date, response time, editor, result and feedback, and any rewrite ideas. So for this particular log, I have 7 columns, so I'll put in 7 there. And then the rows are everything across. That's all the information across. So for each magazine, you'll have the title, the submission date, response time, and so on. So you can have, you can put in as many rows as you want. I'll just put in 15 for now. And then all you need to do is just click OK, and you will come up with a table wherein you will be able to type in all the pertinent information that you want. Now, let's talk about the result and how to log the result, because basically you're going to get, either you're going to be accepted into the magazine, they'll want to publish your story, or you'll get a rejection letter. Okay, so now if you get accepted, the first thing that you want to do is go down the column. So let's say Anatomy of the Invisible was accepted in one of these magazines here. What I would do then is I would write accepted in the result and feedback with a great exclamation point, and then I would go to all of the other magazines in that column, and I would notify them immediately. So having the log really helps you do that, because instead of having just everything in paper or in a Word file, which is how I used to do it, I would be clicking all over the place to find out where I sent the work, because it's very easy to lose track of that. But having it right in one place, accessible at a glance, is just wonderful. So when you get accepted, what you want to do is just contact all those editors, those magazines right away, and let them know. And they'll be disappointed that they didn't have the opportunity to publish your work first, but they'll really be thrilled for you. Okay, so you want to do that. And then let's talk about what happens when you get rejected. Okay, now There are different ways of getting rejected. The one way is that you get a rejection form letter, which is very impersonal, and it's really cold and it doesn't feel good and all of that. But sometimes you will get a form rejection letter where the editor himself has handwritten a little note that invites you to submit again. And so even though you're getting rejected, they are asking you to try again, and they'll tell you the deadline for the next submission and all of that. Now, when that happens, you definitely want to put that in the log, because what that means is that they really like your work. It's just that for whatever reason, they weren't able to publish it in this particular issue. It may be that the story was really close, but it just needed a little work. It may be that they just want to see more of your work because they really believe in your potential. So what you're learning here is when you get those kinds of rejection letters where they're inviting you to submit again, what you're learning is which editors are really receptive and responsive to your work. So you want to have a note of that, because when you submit to them again, that's who you want to submit to. Though that is really good information to have. Okay, so just because you get rejected, it's you don't want to think of that as a total failure. It's not at all. So you want to make sure that you're including that in your log. Okay, so for example, let's say that you send a story out to your list A and your list B. You're going to put the story in the drawer and just work on something else in the meantime, but just put the story in the drawer. When you've heard back from all the magazines that you've submitted to, let's say that you have been rejected by all of them, but maybe some of those editors have also invited you to submit again. So that's some encouragement. You want to note that. Now, what you want to do too is, let's say you get rejected across the board. Okay, so maybe you don't get any encouragement at all. You're just getting those form rejection letters. That could mean that maybe you targeted the wrong magazines. It could also mean that the story just isn't ready. That's usually what it means, is that the story probably needs a little more work. So what you want to do in that case is, once you've heard from all your submissions, all your magazines that you've sent to, is take the story out of the drawer and revise it. You'll have that distance that allows you to do that. You'll be able to see the story the way a reader would, any other reader would. You'll have that distance and objectivity, and therefore you'll be better equipped to revise the story. And the other thing that you can do is join a workshop or have an experienced reader, someone who understands how stories work, to give you some concrete feedback on taking the story further. And then what you want to do, once you've revised it and taken it as far as you can, you want to send it again. You want to revise it and then submit the story again, and especially to those editors who may have invited you to submit to them again. So the log is really useful, not only engaging the effectiveness and the strength of your story, but also in really nailing which editors are likely to publish you in the future. Okay, log is really helpful for that. So the next thing that we're going to talk about is feedback. Now, getting feedback on your manuscript from the editor that you submit to doesn't happen very often. Okay, the editors really are so swamped with manuscript, and they have a lack of manpower to be able to give feedback, personal feedback, on every manuscript that comes across their desk. But sometimes what happens is, if you submit to a local magazine or a regional magazine, someone who doesn't get quite as many submissions, they may have time to actually give you some very good feedback on your story. So for example, they might say something like, your story was unfortunately one of the last to get cut, but this is what I really yearned for when I was reading the story. I wanted a deeper exploration of so-and-so, or I just felt that it took too long for it to get going. The story had too much backstory, and it was all backstory, or it was all summary, or something like that, something that they believe can help you take the story to more excellence. So you will get that occasionally, but it's not the norm. But when it does happen, you want to make sure that you put that down in your log. Now, for rewrite ideas, sometimes what will happen is when you do get accepted, the editor will have some ideas on how they want the story changed a bit. Maybe they want something tweaked a little, or they may want some changes. You just want to note that in your rewrite ideas. And also what happens sometimes is that while your story is in the drawer and you're waiting to hear back from all your editors that you've submitted to, you may your subconscious may just rise up and present you with some insight into the story, because that often happens. You know, when we're resting from the story, sometimes we'll get struck with some really good insight into how to maybe change the story or improve it. So you just want to jot it down in your log. Okay. So that's it for now, and I will see you inside the next video. Thanks a lot for joining me. I'll see you soon. Bye.